Hello, everybody. This is our review of...
Hello.
Oh, yeah, okay, he's here too.
Hello.
All right. We've got a review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It is from our podcast, The Weekly Planet, which you can check out. But, you know, often people like to hear our thoughts.
Why? We don't know.
Which is good.
We don't know
which
why.
is good. It's
Is
good,
it?
though. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great.
So this is that, basically.
Yeah.
If you're interested, podcast is linked below. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple. It comes out every Monday if you want to hear the whole thing. But if you could leave a like on this, that would be great.
Spoiler alert, we thought it was good movie.
Don't tell people that.
Oh, no, they're going to stop listening,
I'll
aren't
bleep that. I'll
Okay.
bleep that. They won't know.
they? Spoiler alert, we thought this movie was beep.
Exactly.
Wow.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, everybody.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about box office.
Okay.
So
you love talking about the box office.
People like to know, don't they? Do you? Am I doing this for no reason?
James, you know I don't understand how numbers work. Every single time you're like, this made $140 million this weekend. And I'm like, great. You're like, that's bad. That studio went out of business. And so or sometimes you're like, this made $14 million. And I'm like, oh, that's a shame. And you're like, no, that's good for this genre of movie. They made 15 times their budget back. And I'm like, how? I'm never right, James. I hate it.
The budget is $200 million. I'll tell you what, Mason, you see everybody sent on screen. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yes.
And the box office return in the US opening weekend is going to be around 110 million-ish. Maybe a little bit more than that. It seems as if it's going to be opening less than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But that being said, it seems to be getting good word of mouth. People are being like, well, this is a return. The form of the MCU and whatever. It's knocked Mario from the #1 spot.
What? Chris Pratt knocked off Chris Pratt.
That's right.
Gadzooks.
Gadzooks, indeed. But I don't think, though, it's going to cut too much into the Mario movie, even though it seems to be men in their 30s and 40s going to see that movie. It's because this movie is not a kid's movie.
No.
Like, as I was watching this, I was like, oh, I could maybe take my son to this. And then some things happened where I went, nah, I don't think I will, actually.
I don't think this is a spoiler.
Yeah.
I think it maybe, especially if you've seen any of the...
We will talk spoilers.
I would say, if you're not a fan of animal cruelty,
Yeah.
don't see this. Or see it on streaming where you can skip.
Yeah. But outside of that, there's also, like, there's some horrific stuff at play here, which... You know, which is not suitable for like little kids.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yes.
You know your own kids better than me. I assume.
Uh-huh.
All of this is to say, what do you think the story was?
Oh, okay, hang on. All right, so it's after Avengers Endgame.
Yep.
It's after that. It's happened after that. Are we caught up to the Marvel Universe? Because we're in 2023.
Are we?
Is the
God.
Marvel Universe now in 2023?
Oh, God,
I'm going to say yes. For ease of use, I'm going to say yes. Anyway, Peter Quill's all sad. He's like, oh.
Endgame set in 2023.
That's right.
And it's also after the Christmas special.
That's right.
Whenever that was set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peter Quill said, he's like, I'm sad. Oh, Gamora. Gamora don't love me anymore because it's a different Gamora.
Yep. They also explain her being different Gamora. They quickly rush through like, well, it's actually Gamora from an alternate dimension or whatever. But they seem to very early lean on, if you don't know any of that, is just like...
If you didn't watch Endgame.
She doesn't remember.
I think there are a lot of people who are just Guardians fans.
I agree.
Who've watched 1 and 2 and no other Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a smart move to do that. Oh, no, I mean a smart move to
do that, yeah.
to keep
yeah.
everybody in the
Yeah,
loop.
I know what you mean.
But maybe it's for some people it is a smart move.
I'm just laughing because it can be interpreted a different way, Mason.
Right. Anyway, bloody, they're just chilling out of nowhere, which is the big celestial head, and they're being cool. But then they got to go on a quest.
Yeah.
I feel there's not a lot I can say without spoiling it. Can we?
Sure.
What can we
I'm
say?
really talking generalities.
Generalities. They're attacked by a mysterious being.
Yep.
Who is it?
It's God.
It's God.
It's the Christian God.
That's right.
He's out for blood.
That's right. He's like, I'm back to the old ways. Here we go, but I'm doing it in space now.
I saw you explode that planet. I saw that.
Yeah.
And I'm here, I'm mad.
It took me ages, that planet. It took me bloody ages.
Well, I made the man and the man made the planet, but I made the man.
That's right.
So, you know. Anyways, it was good to see the Christian God in this movie.
That's right, exactly. Nah, just kidding. It was a different thing.
Different thing happens. Yeah.
But then the Guardians got to go on a quest. They got to go. They got to go across the galaxy and do all sorts of stuff.
Do a thing, get a thing, help
go on
a thing.
Adventures. There is some fetch questing in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that much though. To be honest, it didn't really bother me.
I feel like this is a movie about the characters.
Sure.
You know, and they're gonna go on their adventures, and it's about the characters working together and working out their issues.
Yeah.
You know, getting closer and
absolutely
having a delightful time. The adventures themselves, or what, you know, where they have to go and what they have to get up to.
Yeah.
That's sort of immaterial, I guess, in a way, you know.
It's propped up by, I think, you know, how well these characters have been written over the multiple movies. including like Infinity War. But speaking of that,
Yes.
this really kind of reinforces to me like how stupid they made StarLord in Infinity War. Like James Gunn has like hinted at it, but in that movie, he's just like he doesn't understand like the meaning of words.
Right.
He doesn't seem to have any kind of prep or plan, or he's got like a pluckiness to him. But he's
At one point, he doesn't understand that the other Avengers are from Earth. Remember that bit? You know?
Exactly. He's written like Andy Dwyer.
Oh, right.
I feel like for a lot of that, and they lean into like the comedic element. Not that I think that it was bad seeing them in that movie, so I quite enjoyed it. But what this leans into, I think, is more the Peter Quill we know from the other Guardians movies, where he is a goof. You know what I mean? And he's trying to have a sexy good time all the time, but also he's like a straight up killer. There is a moment where he's in like a room full of people where his literal line is, "Let's kill everybody," or, or kill them all, or some variation on that. And I like that though. And he can use like tech, and
he's competent.
He's competent.
There's a scene where he's having an argument with another member of the crew via the radio, but at the same time he's just setting up the heist. He's like, "Bam, done."
Yeah.
And how dare you talk to me like that? And bam, and there's another thing, we've sorted it out, and you know.
Exactly. All of that is really good. And I think
he's got his competence and his depth back.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
is nice.
And I think it's just also good to see like all of these team like back together in a solo movie. I think it was great that they removed Thor. I know they've talked about how James Gunn has talked about how Taika Waititi, starting his Thor movie from having the Guardians in it and all of that, he really took a bullet for him because he was like, I didn't really want to have Thor on the Guardians team, and I would have had to write him out at the start. And, and maybe he could have worked in the Christmas special or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think all of that is really good, and I think all of the additional characters that we get are great. I really liked the High Evolutionary as a villain. Really terrifically acted, just an awful, sadistic person. He's a really compelling nemesis.
Now, what is the actor's name? The actor's name
his name's Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yes, and he was also in Peacemaker.
He was, he was great in that as well. So, and the design of that, and they even specifically point out RoboCop, but he's got that stretched RoboCop kind of without the mask on kind of face going on.
Terrific design,
Just all of that, really, really good. I think easily one of like the best villains that they've brought into the MCU. And on top of that, like he has depth, but not depth in terms of like, oh, I understand this guy and I like him. Everything you find out about him, you're like, this guy sucks more than I initially think. Like, I understand him, but also not in a good way. I don't him. Yeah. I thought he was amazing.
Classic podcaster, you know what I mean?
That's right.
The more you learn about him, the less you like him.
Yeah. I think also, I've seen this kind of, narrative, people talking about like, this being like a hangover, or like, not hangover is probably the wrong word, but it feels like
it's not the hangover. It's not a hangover sequel.
No, it's like an echo of like...
Although Bradley Cooper's in it.
Sure, that is true. It was even at the premiere.
That's right.
It's a very rocket-focused story.
Yeah.
But
what am I doing here?
Who am I in this? But this is like an echo of like a previous phase of the MCU. And the last one James Gunn is probably going to do... maybe forever, but at least a while.
Yes.
Right? I know he doesn't want to come back to this, or he's talked about how he doesn't want to, and that may not remain true for like the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But
I think he's built a three movie arc where the character started in one location, and I think they've ended in another location to his satisfaction.
Yes.
However, whatever their fates may be in this movie, and he's just like, okay, that
we'll
is
get to
good.
all that.
And I think perhaps if he found a new arc for those characters, maybe he'd send them on that journey again. But I think, I think this is very effectively capped off.
Because I know it feels like at the moment, and we're probably going to get more of this because of like the writer's strike, that the direction of the MCU is like up in the air. Like we know it's building towards a multiverse saga.
Yes.
But I feel like they haven't put all the pieces in place to make that at the moment like a satisfying like combination of things to come together to fight a guy or multiple guys who might not even be in this universe for much longer. That's all up in the air at the moment.
There might be an infinite number of them, or there might be one guy now who gets killed by Doctor Doom, who's like, I'm the bad guy now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That could very well be possible. And that's all like real world stuff that has to play out. But I think even if you put that aside, there has been stories like in the latest phases that I have like I liked WandaVision. I know not everybody did, but I liked Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, our friend of the show, Nando V Movies, did a video about, a couple of videos, I think, about like what Phase 4 is about and sort of an overview of it. And there's a lot of good stuff in that. I think even
I agree. There's definitely a saturation. I think the quality did dip because of how much stuff they put out.
Yes,
I agree with all of that.
But even like the stuff that perhaps like I didn't love the way Falcon and Winter Soldier ended, but I thought there was a lot of good stuff in that.
Sure, yeah.
WandaVision you said was great. We got Werewolf
Loki
by Night.
was cool.
Loki was cool. You know exactly. There's a lot of good stuff in that. If you just go back over that, there's a lot of good stuff to it, but it's not as laser focused on going to a point where there's a big crisis moment and all the teams have to get together and save the thing. It's just been...
There's some pieces and you can kind of see how some of them fit in and maybe not others. It also feels like experimental in terms of like what works at this point? What do people want to see? You know? Which doesn't always pay off. But my favorite MCU movies, and I guess just movies in general, is when you give a director like an opportunity to have their vision in place. And this isn't like what a startling revelation. Like somebody's got a good idea for something and then they are able to execute that. And I think that's also why I liked Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Because even though it does feel like they might have toned down a lot of stuff that Sam Raimi would have brought to horror, like a straight out horror movie. But if you look at like his Spider-Man movies, and you even look at some of the Evil Dead or some of the horror stuff, you can see that kind of weaved into it. That's
true.
what I like the personality of it, where if you look at like Ant-Man, the last Ant-Man, whatever, I don't even...
Anybody could have made that.
Yeah, and which, that's a terrible thing to say about somebody, but it didn't... I just didn't feel anything. It felt... And I also think that's like a budgetary thing, because I know a lot of that was allocated to probably this, but also Black Panther 2.
Yeah.
We know that. And even the idea of giving like Ant-Man a story like that maybe probably wasn't a good idea either, maybe. I don't know. I mean, we talked about it.
We did talk about it, but I think even in retrospect, I think even more so now, the fun of Ant-Man is he's in the real world and things are different sizes. What a joy. You know what I mean? Or he could go to a quantum realm where who knows how big anything is.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, great. Because you talk.
I think he should have gone even bigger.
Yeah,
the bit where he's in the battle station or he's in the city or whatever, and he's stomping Kang stuff. I think he should have gone even bigger. Just crush it all with one boot.
Maybe as big as like a normal man.
Yeah, and then just step on it. Step on the whole thing, just on the street.
I'm putting a stop to this.
Yeah, I'm going to spit on a handkerchief and I'm going to rub it into the ground and destroy this entire universe.
I really liked Adam Warlock. I think there was...
Will Poulter?
Yeah, there was talk, because he's new, freshly hatched. I was thinking, like, how's that going to go? Is he just going to be like another Drax and not understanding that? But
he's a dummy in a different way.
He's a dummy in a different way, and I think all of that works, and he's great. And just the introduction of that character, even though they have, like, significantly depowered him from the comics where he could obliterate most people in the Marvel universe. His introduction is like very threatening.
Yes.
It is toned back kind of from them when they place some like limitations upon that character. And I think all of that worked for me. I also think, and like again, to parallel this with Ant-Man, is that there was a dedicated amount of time and effort put into making this aesthetically something.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I know, they...
Looks bloody gorgeous.
Yeah, they talked about like...
and gross.
And
gorgeous and gross.
Like Steve Ditko kind of inspired stuff and all of that. But you see flashes of other elements and like inspiration in this. Like I think, 2001 Space Odyssey
exactly.
and whatever.
And Nowhere looks great.
Yeah.
The home of the Guardians and it's sort of
There's a lot of
tiny
real
little
sets.
town. Yeah, a lot. And of course they go to, if you've seen the trailers, they go to a sort of a bioengineered kind of planetoid kind of thing, which is suitably gross, but it's also really interesting on the inside as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like great kind of soldier designs, like armor designs that are silly in an interesting way.
I mean, you could have just put them in, like a basic Stormtrooper, Halo, whatever, something like that, but they don't. It's strange and I think it's a weird thing to see. Again, it feels, the world as always, like feels fleshed out, and also the $200 million.
Very fleshed out.
Yes. They put into this. Yeah. Was spent appropriately. But like the core of this, and people have also talked about how like it basically ties the whole trilogy together and makes it his story. It's like, it's a rocket focused story where you find out his origins and why he is the way he is and the journeys that he's been on and maybe continue to go on. Who knows what happens to anybody in this? We'll talk about it. Really good.
Yeah.
I think they also
There's a lot of yelling.
There is. Yeah, we talked about this, but do you think there is too much yelling?
No, I think there's an appropriate amount of yelling. I think, because I didn't watch the previous two.
I watched two
recently
leading up to
right.
this, which I like to a lot.
Would you say there's roughly the same amount of yelling?
Yeah, I like this one. I mean, again, I like two, but I like this one more than two, and Maybe more than one, but I don't know. Or at least on par. I mean, I just saw it, so who's to say?
Yeah. Oh, another thing I liked the ongoing evolution of the relationship or not relationship between Quill and new Gamora. I thought that was portrayed.
There was a lot of yelling, though.
There was a lot of yelling, wasn't there? Yeah. And I just like the team dynamic. You know, when we see Drax and Mantis and Nebula and Rocket and just some
team ups. It's interesting to see them get to the point where they openly care about each other. And I think the fact that they didn't continue with their narrative that, like, they can't express themselves. Like, they openly refer to each other as, like, family, and they go back for each other. And even though
that's probably that Vin Diesel influence.
Probably the Vin Diesel thing. But that was refreshing that we didn't go back to, like, well, I don't care about anybody, you know? We've passed that point.
Yeah.
And I think I liked that a lot. One of the things I didn't like necessarily is I felt
it's hater time.
Here we go. The music choice was really scattershot.
Yeah, there's a lot of very aggressive needle drops in this. And I think you're right in the sense that, like, the previous couple,
there's an era.
Yeah, like the in the second one, Ego is, his origin on Earth as a human is sort of that 1970s era, late 70s, early 80s, and so it's kind of that's where the music sits kind of thing. And I guess the idea being that at the end of 2, Peter Quill gets a Zune, which has newer music on it.
Songs on it.
And I guess that's kind of where the scattershot element comes from. But
and I understand that, like, narratively. I think because they open with, and I don't think this is a spoiler, they open with Radiohead's Creep, which is the only song of theirs that I think anybody knows. Is that right, Mason? They're not a big band, are they?
Except for you. You know everything.
No, I don't know.
You're a man of a certain demographic.
No, Mason.
You love Radiohead.
I don't know anything about Radiohead.
Wow.
Not by even design.
I'm kind of amazed that Radiohead allowed one of their songs in a Marvel movie.
They probably
paid him $1 billion.
Well, that and, like, I think if James Gunn came to you, if you look at, like, what he's done for, like, Redbone, for example.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like,
you're
you
right.
would go,
Yeah. But, or maybe Radiohead don't own the publishing to that and they had no say.
Well, that's also possible. But I think, like, I understand why then the music jumps over all different eras because, he's got the playlist and he's got, like, 70s, 80s, 90s and whatever up to the early 2000s on that thing.
But I felt it really just dropped in like a hammer every single time. Whereas in the previous, I think, oftentimes it is them listening to it on listening to the music on a Walkman or something like that, and it's sort of woven into the scene more.
And that does happen in this. I also think, like, maybe they should have picked an era. And I think being a Zune, maybe you go mid-90s to early 2000s.
Yeah,
And that's what I thought they were doing with, like, Radiohead and that song that goes,
Space Hog in the meantime.
Yes. I think that, like, because I love
from the
that
album
era.
Resident Alien.
Yeah. I love that era. And so maybe that's just like a personal bias to be I would have liked to have seen more of that. But I don't know. I'd be interested to know whether, like, anybody else thinks that.
Yeah. I also wonder if when I go for a rewatch, will it be as jarring? I'll be like, I get it now.
But I remember with the previous 2 movies, I would immediately add those playlists to whatever,
Yeah, right.
And this one I didn't. There's not even a song here that I don't like. I just don't necessarily like them as a collection.
You're saying that after you heard Radiohead Creep, everything else was a step down for you.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
We haven't really talked about it, and we probably more in spoilers, but I think the action set pieces are good. As mentioned, like, the opening brawl is good. There's a moment where they break into a big organic facility, which is good. Any kind of showdown they have with, like, weak creatures or the bad guy and all of that. I think there's also like a brutality to the action in this, and it feels like very visceral.
Yes.
There's also some, like, fun moments. There's a moment where they have to, like, escape, and Gamora's just very openly will kill anybody or do anything to get out. I think that works really well. I also really liked the placement of the F-bomb in this.
I don't think we should spoil it.
No, we won't, but
the Marvel's first one, probably.
It is. It's the MCU's first one because PG-13 movies, they're allowed to have one F-bomb. I've talked about this, like, at length. Often when they do the F-bomb and it's like a big deal. Like,
yeah, right. That's true.
In X-Men, I want to say Dark Phoenix, but it could be any of them.
Yeah.
Scott Summers is like, let me across the road, I'll fucking kill you. And it's this real dramatic moment.
Before the Frogger scene.
Yeah, before the Frogger scene. But this, it's just in a...
Matter-of-fact way.
Yeah, and apparently it was improv as well. And it feels like that. And it's just a funny moment that comes and goes that I quite like.
Yes.
That clip's online. You can just see that, by the way,
that's
if
right.
you are interested in doing so. Should we do some spoilers?
Yes, I'm going to say best movie ever.
I really liked it.
Yeah, good finale to the arc, I think.
Definitely. And maybe we'll see some more Guardian stuff in the future. Maybe we'll talk about it in spoilers, which is right now, Mason.
Spoiler time, big time spoiler time. We're going to say who lives and who dies.
Yep.
We're going to say what happens right at the end, and we're going to do all sorts of stuff. So if you don't like that, tune out now, or hit pause, or turn the volume down, or fling the earpods at your ears, or veer your car off a cliff.
Yep. Or all.
Yeah, or none, and go, why'd you spoil it? Because we hate you.
Yeah.
That's why. You specifically, the one guy who took our options and was like, no, thank you. I don't want to.
So what really surprised me
Go on.
is that all of the team lived.
That's true, yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, okay. It was like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
It felt earned.
It felt earned, and it felt like they deserved to all get away with their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They got away with it.
Yeah. It would be a real downer if one of them had to, Rocket had to sacrifice his life to save the rest of the team, and they had another space funeral or whatever. I think that would have been a real
downer.
Real downer, exactly, yeah. I think they got away with it by having the tragic deaths of Flora and Teefs and Lila.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that probably...
And also I think in previous movies, like with the death of Yondu, Peter Quill's mum dies in like the first scene in the first movie.
That's true.
And Gamora's dead. Groot died.
Yeah, that's true.
So you going into this, it's like, no, they can die.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Oh, yeah, we were primed to accept that one or more of them probably were going to die.
Yeah.
That James Gunn, he is a little stinker,
He might
isn't he?
know what he's doing.
Yeah.
We'll find out. What if he ruins the DC universe? Who cares? Chris does again.
Yeah.
There is also like a bittersweetness to the end of it. It's interesting because they save the dance number, which is usually at the start, for the very end.
That's true.
Like the happy, they've all got a happy dance number. And the first one, it's Peter Quill going and breaking in. Second one is Baby Groot. This one starts with Creep by
That's
Radiohead
true, yeah.
and then ends with the good fun time. But it is bittersweet because some stay on the team and they all disperse.
That's true.
So I think you still get that emotional kind of, maybe not the sadness of a death, but there is like
a catharsis.
A catharsis. That's a good way to put it.
And and maybe, it kind of feels like, maybe some of them will never see each other again, or,
Especially the ones who don't want to wear all the makeup anymore.
That's true. I got surgery and I'm just Dave Bautista now. But they ruined my eyes, so I have to wear my little glasses. Oh, no.
There's also a lot of violence and death in this. A whole planet of people that we meet are obliterated.
They are obliterated, it's true.
Like it's nothing. Not in it felt like, oh my God, what an awful thing.
Uh-huh. Well, it is interesting as well that in order to save Rocket, the Guardians team will just cut a swath of destruction and death through everybody.
Yeah.
I
like that,
Yeah,
though.
it's good though, yeah.
I think that, again, returns to the Peter Quill from the previous movies. Especially when we didn't like somebody, he'll go well out of his way.
That's true.
To ensure that, that person will survive. And just the fact that they'll brazenly walk into a facility where they'll probably die and then they kill a room full of people and he literally buries a guy in the earth from leaping out of a spaceship and whatever. All that's really, I like buff Groot. I wasn't sure whether how that would play. And I like that a lot. I like the design and got all the guns in him and whatever.
Did you buy the moment where they scan Peter Quill for weapons, but they don't scan Groot because he's a wooden man?
Probably.
Yes,
Who
sure.
cares? I liked Groot where he went kaiju mode, but he's all kind of weedy because he just expands. He probably doesn't have the strength.
Yeah,
because he's just all like a blowing up a balloon.
I love that we finally saw a counter Earth. This which I think in some Marvel continuities is just on the opposite side of the sun to where Earth is.
Often that will be,
but I guess in this instance it's just out in space somewhere. But that felt very kind of. Yeah, it was. It felt like the worst. Like the most awful Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the sense of that's what I love about these cosmic movies is just there's the tech to just build another planet Earth and just put it over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone in the galaxy is just whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sure.
And it's also the 70s over there for some reason.
Yeah. I guess that's where he saw Earth last
I
or
guess
whatever.
that's true, yeah.
I'm assuming. Yeah.
But I think aesthetically also that's the most interesting because if it was just...
Now...
I don't think the character design would be as interesting.
Yeah.
There's just something about the weird color scheme.
If everybody's wearing K-pop T-shirts, you don't think that would be as interesting?
Not as interesting. Because that would just look like Peter Quill's outfit in space, where he's off.
Sure, yeah.
But just that everybody's wearing a sweater vest and they've got like weird family photos on the wall. And a bit of fun.
All that bizarreness.
And they're all dead also.
Yeah, and they're all dead.
The entire planet is dead.
Speaking of dead, we find out Rocket's origins in great detail.
Yeah.
Just horrifying. And like the experiments and the way he's treated, and he's all kind of like timid, and then they shoot his friends and all of that. Just awful. And then he tears a man's face off.
He sure does.
Yeah, those were the two moments in the dead animals where I'm like, I don't think I'm going to bring my 7-year-old to see this movie.
Yeah.
He'd probably be fine, but like, I don't know. Yeah. What if it buries in his psyche?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you're like, was that fine? And he's like, it is fine. And then he just never sleeps again.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
You're looking tired, son. And he's like, I haven't slept.
Saw a guy get his face torn off.
Haven't slept in 2 years.
Yeah, but that Rocket backstory, and I also like, again, they lean into like the cunningness of Rocket, because he's like, as he discovers, he's a raccoon.
Yeah.
And he's not as strong as like a person. But in a fight, he's ready. Like the high evolutionary uses like his telekinesis technology on him, and he's got like a little device to like counter that.
That's right.
And then he can, shoot him or whatever. I thought that was, even though he was terrified to go into that scenario, he's had years to think about it, and he's ready if this guy ever crosses his path again.
That's right.
Yeah, it felt like a really satisfying showdown, especially because they all got together and beat him up.
Yes.
Which is a thing I love in a movie,
That's
Mason.
right. It's chapter 1 or possibly 2 or both.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, they all beat up the Red Wizard at the end.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's my favorite thing.
It's beautiful, beautiful teamwork.
You know what? Someone's going to do it in a movie I don't like, and I'm going to be like, well, you've ruined this for me now.
Well, we had a good run.
We did, yeah. Really satisfying, because, I mean, you don't know which. I thought it was going to be just Peter Quill who comes back for Rocket in the crashing ship, but they all come back to be like, let's beat this guy up.
That's right. One more for the road, hey?
Yeah.
It's really laying to this guy.
Yeah. I also think the leading into Drax's, it's interesting we never really got his, like a look at his family. Like we know his backstory and how they died, but you see.
I think we can safely assume wife, it's him in a dress.
Yep.
And child, it's him in a dress on his knees with the shoes attached to his
Sure,
knees.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
But him finding his place in the universe as being a dad, like to all these
that was nice.
orphan kids and all of that.
Yeah.
And I really like the element of the high evolutionary hated Rocket because Rocket had independent thought and he couldn't understand how he could get to that point. And I think he's making societies and basically putting people in it like dolls, and they can't go outside of that.
Yeah, right.
And I think also if you look at that guy and how flawed he is, that's probably because he's not allowing people to be creative and to forge their own path.
That's true.
So that's probably why it keeps happening to him.
Yes, that's true. Like if it doesn't work, he's just like if it doesn't work immediately, he isn't like, well, we'll see what their kids do. He's just like, let's kill them all and start again. So he's the flawed one, isn't he?
That's what I was saying.
Make you think.
Yeah, but I thought that was just what an absolute like lunatic of a character to put in this as a villain, and in a way a victim of his own hubris.
Ooh,
and he got beat
Rocket
up.
Rocket clawed his face off, and then they all beat him up. Yeah.
Was he just a guy?
How do you mean?
Like he was a man, right? I mean, I know he had his powers and his face,
right?
But like he was a guy, right? Before he got his upgrades.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's another element that I like, and he wasn't even like, I'm going to take over the universe. He was just, I want to build some society, some weird stuff.
I want to build a mutant turtle, and then when we got those.
We got those. But even like the rest of the universe, because he's like a corporation who just like, whatever. He's not even like a threat to most people.
That's true.
Because he's just doing his own weird, awful thing off in his own pocket of the galaxy.
Did this movie have a lot of huge Easter eggs or hidden stuff or anything like that?
Probably some cosmic stuff in here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, probably. I
As someone who doesn't do Easter egg videos anymore, Mason, you're
true.
asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, it was nice to see Cosmo again.
Yeah.
I like the subplot with Cosmo and Kraglin over. He refused to take back calling her a bad dog. I thought that was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It was nice to see Howard the Duck again.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Was it nice to see all the other Ravagers and all their different teams?
Yeah,
what do you think of the new team at the end that they put together? We've got a video coming out.
Okay, so we've got the new team. It's Rocket.
Yep.
Adam Warlock.
Yep.
Groot.
Yep. Bigger Groot.
Yep. And the little kid.
Phyla-Vell, yeah. In the comics is Marvel's like...
I thought it was interesting that their final
offspring.
mission wasn't protect a town from some bandits, but kill a bunch of animals.
Well, they did kill a bunch of animals in this movie.
That's true, they did.
Yeah. Remember when they killed all those robot animals?
Yes. Oh, the hell beasts or
Yeah.
whatever they were. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But these were just like local wildlife, it seemed.
Yeah, it did seem that way.
I wonder if the actors didn't know what they were going to be coming up against.
Sure.
And they were just like, I'll put it in later. Also, perhaps, see, to me at the end, if they were battling bandits, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
Because the bandits are there to do evil and they're protecting. But, but I also wonder, maybe it's because Love and Thunder had... Remember at the start, the Guardians were fighting bandits, and then at the end, Thor and his daughter were fighting bandits. So it's like, okay, well, we can't just do that.
I wouldn't have remembered that.
No.
I would have been happy if they were fighting bandits.
Well, I bet James Gunn will never forget.
That's right, yeah. Do you want to talk about the F word placement?
Yes.
It's just he just says it in a
bit of fun.
In a moment of frustration,
that's funny.
opening a car door.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, as mentioned, they released that clip online, but I didn't watch, outside of like the first trailer, I didn't really watch any of this. So a lot of this I didn't know going in, which I think was good, Mason. Should we get some reviews in from other people?
Yes.
I've got some here. This is from Rob Marone, who says,
Hey, Rob Marone.
Hey, Rob Marone. He says, I'm Rob Marone. What are you doing out here? Rob, we're doing a podcast. He says, Marvel Studios have been in a slight slump since the last Spider-Man movie. Hey, give me some pictures of him. But the new Guardians by James Gunn was pretty amazing. Hey, great bookend to the trilogy. Best movie ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
He lost that accent towards the end, didn't he?
I
mean, what even was it?
I think he was putting it on.
Yeah. It seems like something he would do.
Might not even be Italian.
Wow.
This one's from username that's witty at first says, Weekly Planet Pod. Saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last night. It was great. I was hooked the whole way through, although I do find it odd that it is being advertised as a kid-friendly movie, Happy Meal and cereal box toys, since it feels more adult than Batman Returns. This movie will make kids cry. Probably.
Yeah. Agreed.
And this is from Devesh, who says, Weekly Planet Pod, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is phenomenal. It's absolutely not a family film, but a story for the generation of kids who grew up with these films like myself. That's an interesting wrinkle because we were men's already when the first one came out.
We're already men.
I got married the year that first one came out. That's right. A finale where
a Guardians-themed wedding.
That's right.
That's right.
A finale where the elevated stakes felt justified and the villain shook me to my core. What a spectacular trilogy.
Instead of I do, you demanded you and your wife said, I am Groot. You were like, everyone will know what we meant.
Oh, Groot said, I love you guys.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Now, here's a question.
He said it in I am Groot.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people would be surprised. Nobody in the team is surprised.
That's what I was saying. It seems obvious at first that like he just said it, but I took that as that's how anybody who understands him says it. And I feel like also he might even choose who can understand him. I don't know whether that's true because it seems to be like you just get it one day.
Right.
Like Gamora just got it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this was, and that was letting the audience in on.
Yeah, that's what it was, I think. Yeah.
And whatever.
Because otherwise they'd be like, what? You speak English?
Yeah.
What? Oh, I was going to say, in case we get emails, I think, doesn't Thor say he can understand Groot because he took a semester of Groot language
that's a
or
good
something?
point.
So I think it's...
But also he's a liar.
He's also a liar, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, none of Taika Waititi's Thor movies are canon. So...
They're in their own universe.
Yeah.
They're on Counter-Earth.
Yeah.
You know what else is a sign of a good movie? And I think this is a good place for me to end on it, but yeah, I'm happy for you to go for another 10 minutes. I'll step out.
Okay.
Is that watching this, and I only realized this after because this is something you do realize after, I never had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm watching a movie. Oh, this scene, this is interesting. This, I don't love this. This is dragging.
Oh, you were in it?
I was in it. And I think...
That's cinema, baby?
Yeah, to me, that doesn't happen as often as you'd want, maybe.
That's true.
Often you're watching a movie and you're like, oh, even if movies you like, and you're like, oh, yeah. But you're kind of aware of your surroundings and like, you're in and out of it or whatever. I didn't feel the runtime of this at all. I was just locked into it.
So you'd say that's cinema, baby?
I would say that's cinema, baby.
Wow. And would you say movies are back, baby?
I would say that's a cinema, baby.
When was the last time you felt that? What about a Top Gun Maverick, for example?
Probably the movie Bloodshot.
Oh, yeah, another Vin Diesel.
It might be just Vin Diesel movies.
Maybe it is, it's true.
Maybe Top Gun, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What movies have we seen recently? Actually, I felt it during Ant-Man 3.
No, you didn't. You're a liar. Maybe you're lying now.
Maybe
you've never felt anything in a movie.
That's also true. Maybe I'm an amazing actor, Mason.